From pocket change to private jets, the mathematical case for XRP's journey to four-digit territory. Picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table on August 17th, 2025, scrolling through your phone, and you see XRP trading at $3.09. You think, should I throw $500 at this thing? Fast forward 5 years, and you're calling your financial advisor asking how to manage your $1.5 million portfolio from that single investment. Sounds like crypto fantasy, right? But what I'm about to show you isn't hopium. It's mathematics backed by institutional adoption data, regulatory clarity, and a banking revolution most people have never heard of. We're talking about Ripple's stealth mission to infiltrate the Federal Reserve itself through a special-purpose national bank charter that could transform XRP from alternative digital asset to legitimate banking reserve instrument. My personal wake-up call: when numbers don't lie. Let me tell you about a conversation that changed everything for me. Last week, I was reviewing Ripple's actual OCC bank charter application. Yes, the real documents, not rumors, and I discovered something that made my coffee go cold. Ripple isn't just applying for any bank charter. They're seeking to establish the Ripple National Trust Bank as a wholly owned subsidiary headquartered in New York, positioning themselves at the heart of global financial markets while maintaining direct federal oversight. This isn't some speculative move. The application specifically targets fiduciary activities, including custody and management of reserves for RLSUSD, their enterprise stablecoin that has exploded from $70 million market cap in January 2025 to over $600 million by August. That's 757% growth in 7 months. When a company grows their stablecoin by nearly 8x while simultaneously filing for federal banking privileges, you know something massive is shifting. But here's what really caught my attention. The application deliberately omits any direct reference to XRP. This isn't regulatory avoidance, it's strategic brilliance. By decoupling XRP from the initial charter approval, Ripple minimizes potential scrutiny while positioning for Phase 2 integration once foundational infrastructure is established. The mathematics that Wall Street executives are quietly calculating. Here's where things get absolutely wild, and I want you to pay close attention to these numbers because they're sourced directly from institutional research reports and regulatory filings. At today's price of $3.09 per XRP, your $500 investment nets you approximately 162 tokens. But according to joint research from Ripple and Boston Consulting Group, the tokenization market reached $600 million as of April 2025 and is projected to explode to $18.9 trillion by 2033. Standard Chartered provides even more aggressive forecasts, estimating $30 trillion by 2034. Now here's the mathematical reality that market analyst Versan Al-Jarrah highlighted. XRP's current market capitalization of approximately $185 billion remains insufficient to support the liquidity demands of a multi-trillion-dollar tokenized economy. With XRP's fixed supply of 99 billion tokens, no inflation, no new printing, price appreciation becomes the only mechanism to accommodate increased demand. Let me break down the conservative math. Supporting just 1% of the projected 2033 tokenization market would require XRP to reach approximately $190 per token. 1% of the 2034 projection puts XRP around $300 per token. Your 162 tokens at $300 each, that's $48,600 from your original $500 investment. A 97x return on what most people consider realistic adoption scenarios. The $1,000 investment, where generational wealth begins. Double your investment to $1,000 and you're looking at approximately 323 XRP tokens at current prices. The 2025 Institutional Investor Digital Assets Survey by Coinbase and EY Parthenon reveals that 86% of institutional investors now maintain digital asset exposure or plan allocations in 2025. More significantly, 59% commit over 5% of assets under management to cryptocurrencies, with 73% holding cryptocurrencies beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum. Here's the kicker. XRP ranks as the most commonly held alternative cryptocurrency at 34% adoption among institutions, followed by Solana at 30%. When 1/3 of institutional investors are already positioning in XRP, retail investors still debating whether to buy are about to get left behind. At $100 per XRP, which Boston Consulting Group data suggests is conservative given cross-border payment volume requirements, your $1,000 becomes $32,300. Scale that to $500 per token, and you're sitting on $161,500 from your original grand. But let's talk about the 4-digit scenarios that sound insane today but become inevitable when you understand the infrastructure being built. At $1,000 per XRP, your 323 tokens transform into $323,000. That's generational wealth from a $1,000 bet most people spend on a vacation.
The banking charter revolution most people are missing. What's really happening behind closed doors involves regulatory developments that could reshape American finance. Crypto researcher Smoke uncovered something in an official State Bank of India document that should terrify traditional banks and excite XRP holders. There's a mad rush among Ripple, Circle, Wise, and BitGo to secure special-purpose national bank charters. But here's what makes Ripple's approach particularly brilliant. President Trump's August 2025 executive order, titled Guaranteeing Fair Banking for All Americans, creates the perfect regulatory environment for this transition. The order directs federal regulators to eliminate references to reputation risk from supervisory guidance within 180 days and authorizes enforcement actions against banks that unlawfully debank crypto businesses. This political pressure creates a massive opportunity. Traditional banks, facing potential fines for refusing crypto services, may retreat from the space entirely, creating a vacuum that federally chartered crypto banks can fill. The SPNB charter isn't just regulatory paperwork, it's a direct pathway to Federal Reserve master accounts. The RLUSD strategy, amplifying XRP demand through institutional rails. Now let me explain something most people are missing about Ripple's stablecoin strategy. RLUSD launched in December 2024 and reached a $500 million market cap milestone in July 2025, positioning it among the top 20 US dollar-denominated stablecoins globally, despite being less than a year old. But here's the critical insight. RLUSD operates on both the XRP ledger and Ethereum networks. Currently, 90% of RLUSD trading volume occurs on Ethereum rather than Ripple's own ledger. Ripple's ongoing campaign to migrate this liquidity onto the XRP ledger promises to cut transaction costs to under $0.0002 and reduce finality time to under 4 seconds. As RLUSD adoption scales across Ripple's 300-plus institutional clients, XRP demand scales proportionately for settlement efficiency. In April 2025, Ripple integrated RLUSD into its flagship Ripple Payments Network, which processes billions of dollars in transaction volume annually. Early customers, including cross-border payment providers BKK4X and iSend, began using RLUSD to optimize treasury operations. The engineering relationship is elegant. RLUSD provides stable value rails institutions require, while XRP enables instant liquidity sourcing that makes the system economically viable. Dubai's real estate revolution. Tokenization goes live at scale. This changes everything about how we think about real-world asset tokenization. Dubai's Land Department launched production-level title deed issuance directly on the XRP ledger in mid-2025, partnering with tokenization firm Control Alt and regulated broker-dealer Pripco. These aren't experiments, they're legally binding ownership records with real money at stake. Every deed token represents cryptographically signed ownership records synchronized in real time with Dubai's official land registry database. Where conventional real estate transactions require days or weeks for clearing, XRPL reduces transfer times to seconds with tamper-proof verification. The scale is remarkable. Dubai aims to tokenize AED 60 billion, $16 billion of property by 2033, 7% of annual transaction volume. Fractional ownership enables investments as small as AED $2,545 per token through regulated platforms. This democratization of high-value assets represents exactly the utility-driven demand mathematical models require for substantial XRP appreciation. The Basel III framework that accidentally favors XRP. Here's where things get technically fascinating and profitable for XRP holders. Basel III liquidity coverage ratio requirements actually create structural advantages for XRP-based settlement systems that most investors completely miss. Banks must maintain a minimum liquidity coverage ratio of 100%, mathematically defined as LCR equals HQLA divided by total net cash outflows over 30 days greater than 100%. This forces banks to hold large pools of low-yield sovereign bonds, or cash, on their balance sheets. SEBA Bank analysis demonstrates that XRP-based on-demand liquidity could reduce Basel III liquidity-related capital costs by up to 99% compared to traditional Nostro account funding. When banks can free up billions in idle capital while improving settlement speed, the economic incentives become overwhelming. The real-world proof is already emerging. MoneyGram's integration with XRP-enabled U.S.-Mexico corridors reported 300% growth in transaction volume within 6 months, while SBI Ripple Asia confirmed 56% lower liquidity costs under ODL arrangements. These aren't pilot programs anymore. They're production-scale operations generating measurable cost savings. The environmental and regulatory advantage creating unexpected demand. Here's something that surprised me during research. XRP's environmental credentials are absolutely crushing the competition. The XRP ledger's annual carbon footprint measures under 4 metric tons of CO2, compared to proof-of-work networks consuming over 90 terawatt-hours annually and generating 50 million metric tons of emissions. For institutional investors facing ESG mandates, XRP offers regulated blockchain exposure without the environmental guilt of Bitcoin mining. Asset manager Bitwise specifically identified XRP as providing clean exposure to tokenization trends without the carbon baggage of Bitcoin mining. Central bank digital currency partnerships, the government adoption play. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse has confirmed partnerships with 10 governments developing CBDCs, including disclosed collaborations with Bhutan, Republic of Palau, Montenegro, Georgia, and Colombia. More than 90% of countries worldwide are exploring CBDC implementation, with central banks recognizing the need to provide public digital currency alternatives. The Royal Monetary Authority of Bhutan partnership focuses on enhancing digital and cross-border payments while boosting financial inclusion. Montenegro's central bank partnership evaluates CBDC functionality and potential impact on electronic payment systems. These partnerships position Ripple as a global infrastructure provider for sovereign digital currencies. The speculation versus utility transition. Why this time is different. The current cryptocurrency landscape represents a fascinating dichotomy between pure speculation and emerging real-world utility. Traditional financial institutions operate on systems that have remained largely unchanged for 5 decades. SWIFT, established in 1973 by 239 banks, still processes over 120,000 daily messages through fundamentally the same architecture. We're witnessing the digital transformation of 50-year-old infrastructure that moves $200 trillion annually in cross-border payments. Financial institutions report 40 to 60% cost reductions utilizing XRP for cross-border liquidity versus traditional SWIFT networks. Japan's commitment to integrate XRP across nearly 80% of its banking sector by 2025 demonstrates systematic adoption at national scale. This isn't speculation, it's mathematical necessity for supporting multi-trillion-dollar tokenized asset flows.
And you guys, I have a special trick for you, which nobody seems to be using, and I cannot wrap my head around why. Because if you sign up through my link down in the description onto the BuyDeFi exchange, you get a 10% deposit bonus. And now stay with me here. Now here comes the important part. If you have any trading capital on any other exchange and you move it to your newly created BuyDeFi account, you get on top of your capital, you moved another 10% extra trading capital. As an example, if you move or deposit a 10K to your account, you get 1K for free. And here is why this is possible. BuyDeFi makes money on trading fees. The more capital you have, the more you trade. The more you trade, the more they earn. So they're literally investing in your trading activity by giving you extra capital up front. And unlike other platforms where bonuses are in the 1 to 3% range, BuyDeFi's bonus is a full 10%. I am not kidding. I really don't understand why nobody is doing this. To me, it really seems like people sometimes are too lazy or just don't like free money. I kindly ask you to pause this video and take your time to make an account. You can thank me later in the description of this video.
The SEC settlement. Regulatory clarity finally achieved. The regulatory clarity that emerged from the prolonged SEC litigation fundamentally altered XRP's institutional accessibility. The case concluded in August 2025 with a $125 million settlement, significantly lower than the initially proposed $2 billion penalty. The court's determination that XRP constitutes a security only when sold to institutional investors, while remaining exempt for public exchange transactions, provides the legal framework necessary for broader adoption. This resolution triggered immediate institutional interest, with XRP experiencing 208% increases in trading volume and $1.1 billion in institutional inflows during 2025. Several asset managers are seeking XRP ETF approval from the SEC, with decisions expected in October 2025. XRP futures launched on the CME in May 2025, satisfying exchange-traded product requirements. Industry analysts estimate approval odds above 90%, contributing to preliminary institutional positioning. The $5,000 investment, private jet territory, becomes achievable. For investors capable of larger allocations, the mathematics become truly extraordinary. Your $5,000 investment secures approximately 1,618 XRP tokens, a position enabling participation in institutional-scale returns. According to Federal Reserve Payment System Modernization Assessments, XRP implementation demonstrates 47% settlement time reductions while maintaining full regulatory compliance. At $100 per XRP, your 1,618 tokens reach $161,800, 32x returns. Progressing through higher valuations, $500 per token yields $809,000. $1,000 per XRP becomes $1.618 million. The generational wealth implications are staggering when you consider compressed adoption timelines. While SWIFT required decades achieving global adoption, blockchain alternatives leverage existing digital infrastructure. Institutional survey data indicating 75% planned DeFi engagement within 2 years suggests accelerated innovation cycles. Real-world transaction volumes on RippleNet exceeded $1.3 trillion during the first half of 2025, representing significant growth from previous periods. On-demand liquidity usage specifically grew by 32% year-over-year in 2024, with Asia-Pacific regions accounting for 56% of global ODL volume. The Mexico-United States corridor alone processed $2 billion worth of transactions using XRP via partnerships with exchanges like Bitso. Traditional SWIFT-based transfers cost between $26 and $50 per transaction, with settlement times ranging from 1 to 5 business days. XRP-powered alternatives reduce transaction costs to approximately $0.0002 for the blockchain component. These cost improvements translate to an estimated $550 million in annual savings for RippleNet users in 2025, with operational cost reductions of 45% reported by participating institutions. The technical infrastructure supporting institutional adoption. The XRP ledger processes approximately 1,500 transactions per second, with 3 to 5 second finality, operating with 90% less infrastructure overhead than traditional correspondent banking systems. Network energy consumption remains minimal compared to proof-of-work cryptocurrencies, addressing environmental sustainability concerns. Over 2.8 billion transactions have processed more than $1 trillion in value as of mid-2025, with median transaction fees remaining fractions of a cent. Monthly active wallets soared above 4 million in the first half of 2025, a 120% increase from the same period in 2024. The investment calculation revolution. The fundamental framework shifts dramatically when viewed through utility rather than speculation. Traditional cryptocurrency investments rely primarily on network effects and market sentiment. Utility-driven valuation models incorporate cash flow generation, cost displacement value, and infrastructure replacement economics. Current price levels around $3.09 per token may represent early utility-driven demand rather than speculative peaks. The tokenization market's projected growth to $18.9 trillion by 2033 creates mathematical requirements for settlement infrastructure that current XRP valuations cannot adequately support. Historical price performance supports dramatic appreciation potential. XRP has demonstrated capacity for substantial gains, increasing by 450.9% over the past year. Since inception, XRP has generated returns exceeding 125,000%, suggesting the infrastructure for significant appreciation remains intact. Risk factors. The honest assessment. Regulatory developments beyond SEC settlement could impact adoption timelines. Competition from other blockchain networks implementing similar payment solutions poses ongoing challenges. Market volatility, characteristic of all cryptocurrencies, continues presenting obstacles for risk-averse institutional investors. However, fundamental economic drivers supporting XRP's utility case appear increasingly robust. Traditional infrastructure inefficiencies create natural market demand for superior alternatives. Mathematical requirements of supporting multi-trillion-dollar tokenized flows necessitate substantial liquidity provision. Demonstrated cost savings and performance improvements provide quantifiable value propositions. Your decision point. The window won't stay open forever. We're not just investing in cryptocurrency, we're positioning for the Internet of Value where tokenized assets flow seamlessly across digital networks. If conservative adoption scenarios materialize, your modest investment today could represent generational wealth when your kids ask how you recognized financial history in the making. The institutional money is already positioning. The regulatory frameworks are falling into place. The technological infrastructure is proven and scaling. The mathematical requirements for supporting tokenized asset markets create inevitable demand for settlement infrastructure. The only question remaining is whether you'll look back in 5 years wondering what if, or celebrating your foresight in recognizing the transition from 50-year-old correspondent banking to instant blockchain settlement. If this analysis resonated with your investment thesis, smash that like button and subscribe for more data-driven crypto analysis. Drop a comment below with your honest take. What's your XRP price target for 2030? $100? $500? $1,000? Or are you thinking even bigger?
Let's debate the scenarios based on the mathematical requirements of supporting global tokenization. Your future self will thank you for taking action today based on institutional adoption data rather than social media speculation.